The clock has officially run out. The United States has quietly assembled the largest naval concentration in the region in modern memory, positioned directly off Iran's coast. While Tehran attempts to project confidence through joint exercises with Russia, the cracks in that image are becoming impossible to ignore. An Iranian fighter jet fell out of the sky mid-exercise. Not shot down, not jammed, just fell, exposing the true condition of a conventional military held together by decades-old parts and diminishing options. The posturing is real. The capability behind it, at least in the air, is not. The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group has just passed through the Strait of Gibraltar. That is not a patrol. That is not a show of force in the abstract peacetime sense of the phrase. A carrier strike group of that scale, F/A-18S, Tomahawk-capable destroyers, submarines running quiet beneath the surface, transiting into the Mediterranean at this moment is a declaration of intent. The question has never been whether the United States has the capability to strike Iran. It always has. The question has always been whether the political will exists to absorb what comes after. Tonight, that question appears to have been answered. Udeid Air Base in Qatar, one of the most strategically critical American air installations on the planet, is being evacuated. Satellite imagery confirmed it over the past several days. Aircraft thinning out, equipment moving, the logistical signature of an installation being cleared not because the mission is over, but because the people running the mission know what is coming. You do not evacuate Udeid as a precaution. You evacuate it because someone, somewhere in the chain of command, has been told with sufficient confidence that it will be targeted. Iran has had Udeid in its missile sights for years. Every Iranian military planner in every war game run since 2005 has put Udeid at the top of the first strike list. The evacuation tells you everything you need to know about the current intelligence picture. Meanwhile, Iranian state television has broadcast footage of a joint Iran-Russia naval exercise in the northern Indian Ocean. Shipboarding operations, seizure drills. Two nations, one under sweeping Western sanctions and one actively fighting a land war in Europe, conducting coordinated maritime exercises at the precise moment American carrier groups are surging toward the region. This is not coincidence. Russia's presence in this equation changes the calculus in ways that are difficult to overstate. It does not mean Russian forces will fire on American ships, but it means Iran does not feel isolated. It means there is a patron watching, a patron with a permanent seat on the UN Security Council and hypersonic missiles of its own, and that patron has chosen this moment to stand visibly alongside Tehran. During military exercises meant to project strength and readiness, an Iranian Air Force F-4 fighter jet crashed approximately 80 kilometers from its base. The pilot did not survive. The F-4 Phantom is an aircraft that entered service in the 1960s. Iran has been flying variants of it for decades, largely because sanctions have made it nearly impossible to acquire modern replacements or even reliable spare parts. What happened during these exercises was not a demonstration of military capability. It was the opposite. An air force conducting a show of force to signal readiness for potential conflict with the most powerful military in the world watched one of its own jets fall out of the sky and kill its pilot before any enemy fired a single shot. The Chinese aircraft carrier Shandong is reportedly moving toward the Middle East. China, which has spent years threading the needle between its economic relationships with the West and its strategic partnership with Iran, is now making a physical statement. A carrier is not a diplomatic note. A carrier is not a phone call between foreign ministers. A carrier is steel and aircraft, and the unmistakable language of power projection. Beijing is signaling that any American military action against Iran will not occur in a vacuum, that the post-Cold War assumption of unchallenged American naval dominance in every ocean simultaneously is being directly tested, right now, in real time. Iran has rejected the American nuclear offer. The details matter here. The United States reportedly proposed temporary pauses on enrichment, not permanent dismantlement, not even the kind of comprehensive rollback that was demanded in earlier negotiations, but pauses. 3 to 5 years. Caps on low-level enrichment. Iran said no. Supreme Leader Khamenei has spent 40 years telling his population that compromise with America leads only to further demands, that the moment you give ground, the next demand is already being drafted. He is not wrong about American negotiating history, and he knows it, and the hardliners around him know it, and so Iran said no. And now Donald Trump, who deployed this enormous military apparatus partly as leverage to force that yes, is in the position every president dreads. A massive buildup with no diplomatic off-ramp and a domestic political environment that makes withdrawal look like surrender. Iran's 800,000-plus soldiers are on high alert with advanced Russian-Chinese-made weapons, missiles, drones, and fighter jets could bomb Tel Aviv, Diego Garcia, Jordan, and other U.S. bases. Iranian IRGC added 100,000 additional troops to its army against U.S. and Israel. That trap is real. Trump cannot pull the Gerald R. Ford back through Gibraltar without something to show for it. The political cost of a full retreat, with no concession from Tehran, no agreement, no visible win, would be severe. His opponents would call it the most expensive bluff in naval history. His supporters would demand to know why American sailors were put at risk for nothing. So the pressure to act is not just strategic. It is personal and political in ways that make rational de-escalation harder, not easier. A limited strike is reportedly under active consideration. Something targeted enough to demonstrate resolve. Something painful enough to force Iran back to the table on worse terms. The problem with limited strikes against Iran is that Iran has spent 15 years preparing its response to exactly that scenario, and its response is not limited. Inside Iran, the ground is shifting in ways the regime did not expect and cannot fully control. Protests are erupting across Iranian universities. Students chanting against the regime in the middle of a security crackdown, at a moment when the government is attempting to project unified national resolve against a foreign enemy. This matters. Historically, Iranian governments have used the threat of external war to consolidate domestic support, to redirect anger outward. It is not working this time, or not working cleanly. The Iranian people have watched their economy collapse under sanctions, their currency lose catastrophic value, their young people leave in enormous numbers. The regime's promise that resistance brings dignity has been tested against the reality of daily life for too long. These protests do not mean the regime is about to fall. Regimes with guns and prisons and revolutionary guards rarely fall quickly. But they mean the leadership is managing two crises simultaneously, one external and one internal, and that dual pressure affects decision-making in unpredictable ways. An Iranian lawmaker has publicly stated that in the event of war, Iranian attacks may not remain limited to the Middle East. He referenced Trump's residence specifically. This is not the first time Iranian officials have made such statements, and Western analysts have long debated how seriously to take them. Here is what is not debatable. Iran has demonstrated in recent years a capacity for long-range precision strikes that was widely underestimated. The 2019 attack on Saudi Aramco facilities was a proof of concept. The direct missile and drone launches toward Israel in 2024 were another. Iran has proxy networks across multiple continents. It has relationships with groups that operate inside Western countries. Whether any of this translates into a strike on American soil is unknowable tonight. But the statement was made by a sitting member of the Iranian Parliament's National Security Commission. That is not a fringe voice. That is someone with access to the briefings, someone who knows what the military is planning, and he said it publicly, which means someone wanted it said publicly. Israel is in this equation at every level. Israeli intelligence has been feeding American planners targeting data on Iranian nuclear and missile facilities for years. The Israeli Air Force has conducted long-range strike rehearsals that were never ambiguous about their intended subject. Prime Minister Netanyahu has spent his entire political career arguing that a nuclear Iran is an existential threat to Israel and that the window to prevent it is always closing. If the United States strikes Iran tonight or tomorrow, Israel will almost certainly be involved either in the initial wave or in responses to Iranian retaliation. And if Iran retaliates against Israel, through Hezbollah remnants in Lebanon, through direct missile salvos, through any of the channels it has maintained and rebuilt, Israel will respond with a scale and intensity that has been clearly telegraphed by its own senior officials. The Iran-Russia naval exercise, the Shandong's movement, the evacuation of Udeid, the failed nuclear talks, the domestic protests inside Iran, the carrier strike group in the Mediterranean, the congressional silence, the foreign ministry statements that grow more clipped and formal by the hour. All of these things are happening simultaneously, and they are not separate stories. They are one story. A system under maximum stress, with every major actor having made commitments, publicly, militarily, politically, that are now very difficult to walk back. De-escalation requires someone to give something up visibly. No one is currently in a position to do that. What happens in the next 60 minutes will depend on decisions being made right now in rooms that have no cameras. The Situation Room in Washington, the office of the Supreme Leader in Tehran, the Israeli Defense Ministry, the bridge of the Gerald R. Ford somewhere in the Mediterranean. The people in those rooms are not monsters or madmen. They are leaders with constituencies, with histories, with commitments already made, staring at intelligence assessments and trying to determine whether the other side is truly ready to pay the price that full war demands. The tragedy of this moment is not that everyone involved wants war. Most of them almost certainly do not. The tragedy is that the architecture of deterrence, the system of signals and deployments and red lines that is supposed to prevent war, has been loaded past its safe operating limits. And when systems are loaded past their limits, they do not always hold.